Welcome back. We're on day 4 talking about change your brain, change your grades. And so happy we've got Chloe here. We're having a great time. And as one of the contributors, she's here talking about it with us, and we're having a wonderful time. Please leave us questions or comments. You can tag Tana Amen, like at Tana Amen for Instagram, at Daniel Amen. You can go to the Brain Warriors Way podcast.com. We're also going to be doing a book giveaway. So stick with us. We'll tell you how to get that book at the end. So what are we talking about today with Change Your Brain, Change Your Grades?
I'm going to talk about giving presentations in class or at work. And it's the number one fear in America is speaking in public, because people think they're being judged. And I guess in a way they are being judged.
Being
and
graded.
So they're anxious and worried about it, what other people think of them. Has this ever been an issue for you, Chloe?
Okay, you know what? I have to be honest with this one. I definitely had my things in school that were big challenges for me, but I really like to talk.
Really?
And I like to talk in front of big groups of people, and I liked to be the center of attention. So, I mean, honesty is key, right?
You're in the right family.
This one, I would get nervous before certain presentations, but this was never never a big weakness for me, but I definitely have great tips because I've had to learn how to give different types of presentations.
Well, you sang at church and
I'm in acting now, so I audition
you were
in
in
front
my
of casting
last
directors all the
public
time.
television special in front of millions of people.
And I still remember your very first presentation, and you knocked it out of the park. So.
I mean, talk about being judged, walking into an audition room with a bunch of casting directors just looking at you.
And they're literally judging you.
They're literally, judging you.
So what are the tips?
Okay, so let me think of a few really good ones. The one for me that's really key, and this might sound like kind of a broad statement, but I mean, every person has a different way that they do it. It was honestly just minimizing in your head, minimizing the entire thing in your head. Because we make it into this big thing. We brew on it before we go to present or to talk to someone, to get up in front of someone and talk. We go over it and over it and over it in our head. We think about every possible thing that could go wrong, and it ends up becoming this really big thing. For me, because I do have anxiety and I do overthink things, it was honestly just the time that I would take before to brew on it and to make it bigger, take that same amount of time to do the opposite. Take that same amount of time to intentionally shrink it down, make it smaller, not less important, but make it just the entire ordeal smaller in my head. So it's almost like it's so simple, but it's like it's just a presentation. They're just people. They're, they're my friends. I'm like, it's like, and it's just that language that you tell yourself.
So the thoughts you tell yourself matter.
Right.
Yeah. So what you're saying is exactly what I did for my black belt test. Like you said, this is not just for grades, right? Or just for school. So when I was taking my black belt test, and I was really, really nervous about it because I was testing at a school where it's really high level people. And I had built in my head, I didn't realize it, but I built in my head this idea of these big monster guys and a couple of more world champion, karate tournament fighters. And I'm like, so I was really scared of it. And I went to
You're a middle-aged mom.
Right, middle-aged mom. So I was telling myself, a middle-aged mom, these guys are
big. You were not just telling yourself, you were telling me.
Everybody, right. But I have an NLP coach I go to, and what you're talking about is a perfect NLP tip, right? So neuro-linguistic programming. And that was the first thing he said. He goes, I'd be scared too. Right. So that's exactly what we did. What I did is I shrunk all the big monsters, these guys, these dudes that were world champions. I shrunk them down to be normal size, to be the same size I was. I made myself a little bit bigger. I turned them black and white, made myself color. I made their voices sound like Mickey Mouse, and then I put them in boxers. But
so envisioning it in your head, planning it through in your head is another thing that I do for sure. But it's just so much for me is just about like the language that I tell myself. It's just presentation. And it's just like, if something was to go wrong, because a lot of times what people do, and maybe this works for some people, but it just did not work for me, is is ignoring the fact that something could go wrong. So it's always like, no, it's going to be okay. Everything's going to go right. Right. And you tell yourself this to make yourself less nervous, but that's not realistic. And when something does go slightly wrong, then you're like, this isn't according to plan. And then my head just like shuts down. I'm like, but I told myself nothing was going to go wrong. And now something's going wrong. What do I do? And I'm having this panic attack.
Instead of what if something goes wrong,
So
what about
beforehand, if I went, okay, so if that did happen, my worst fear, that thing that I'm thinking about, if that did happen, rather than putting it in the back of my head, if I bring it forward and acknowledge it. So if that were to happen, what would those people that I'm so afraid of, what would they do? They're probably not gonna sit there afterwards and go, that was really terrible. Like, I've never seen anything that bad. They're gonna go to Starbucks, they're gonna get their latte, and they're gonna go on with their life. And I know that because that's what I would do.
Brain
right?
warriors don't go to Starbucks and get their latte.
I'm sorry.
Just saying.
She gets an almond milk.
I get an unsweetened almond milk latte. Okay, it's brain
But the brain warriors
approved.
listening. So the thing I'm hearing though is that you prepare. So to deal with presentation anxiety, you are prepared.
The other thing
and you work hard.
But the other thing I
preparation
heard-
decreases anxiety. The other thing is don't leave because I've seen this happen that people get anxious and they don't show up. Because when you don't show up or you leave a situation, the situation now has you by the throat
Right.
and will choke the life out of you,
Yeah.
will control you. That's how this psychiatric disorder called agoraphobia, which literally it's Greek, means fear of the marketplace. I've treated people who have not left their home for 20 years because they were afraid they would go out and have a panic attack. And it's because initially they were worried about something. It caused them not to go to the store, not to go to the mall, not to go to their friend's house, and it started controlling them. The other thing that's so important is controlling your breath. And because that's something you can control, but when you get anxious, almost immediately, your breathing starts to become faster, less efficient, which means you get less oxygen to your brain. And when your brain gets less oxygen, it panics because if the brain is deprived of oxygen for just a few minutes, it'll actually start killing cells.
Yeah.
And so it freaks out. And so the magic number is take 3 seconds to breathe in, hold it just for a second, and then take 6 to breathe out. And if you do that 10 times, your anxiety will
It drops
be
your
less.
adrenaline.
Along with getting your mindset right.
Yeah.
So
that's the part that I
important.
heard that I really want to touch on because what you said is so important. What you were talking about is you really make a point not to take what other people say personally and realize that they're probably not saying all that much. And I love Byron Katie's saying, what people say about me is none of my business. But the truth is, you're saying, what do you say? The 80-40-60 rule is really important too.
Well, this is the 18-40-60 rule, which just saved my life. It says when you're 18, you worry about what everybody's thinking of you. And when you're 40, you don't give a damn what anybody thinks
So
about
true.
you. And when you're 60, you realize nobody's been thinking about you at all.
But fortunately,
Even-
you figured it out at 15,
Yeah.
right? That they're really not.
Gosh, especially 15-year-olds. No one's thinking about you. They're all thinking about themselves. They're thinking about the selfie they just posted. Like, it's not. No, yeah. I couldn't agree with that more.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
So, A student, hard worker, obviously your mom and dad are super proud of you. Some other tips as we close this last podcast, change your brain, change your grades. When you were reading the book, anything you went, oh, well, that's cool. I'm going to do that. Or the things you added. There are all these tips by Chloe and Alizé that really added great fun, but also practical tips of living in a world that has Instagram and Facebook and constant interruption.
Right. So I could add something about that, about time management for sure, because that is one thing that I've had to learn because I'm involved in so much that sometimes I can get scattered. And when I need to get something done, it's important to learn time management. And some little things that I do for myself, I guess now that I'm like talking about it, I'm realizing that a lot of how I regulate myself is just by asking myself questions and changing like little things in my mind, like just the language I use with myself. But for time management, it's just write yourself what I did. I actually did this the other day. Write yourself a little note card, like, like one of the little study cards. And give yourself 3 little tactics, just 3, because if you overload yourself, you'll never remember them. 3 things that you are going to either ask yourself that you're going to do, so ask yourself that you're going to do, or you're going to think in your head to keep yourself on track. And every time you start to feel yourself going off track, stop and go through those 3 things that are on that note card. And by the end of those 3 things, usually you realize you might not want to get back on track, you might not want to focus, but you have a harder time getting sidetracked, because I think what really gets us sidetracked now is it's instant gratification, right? So we're studying, we get bored, we pick up our phones. But we do it so instinctively. It's not even that it's like, oh, I don't want to do this anymore. I should probably pick up my phone. We don't even have that much time in between. We just instinctively go on Instagram. But if you stop for that 1 second, and some of the ones that are, okay, so like my little note card for time management, I wrote one of my questions to myself, and it's kind of random, but it's, am I confident about this? Am I confident about the fact that I'm picking up my phone and going on Instagram when I know I should be studying for a test? Usually the answer is no. Actually answer them. One of the other ones, I think the second one is, what is going to matter most later? The fact that I studied for this test, or the fact that I went on Instagram? Am I going to regret it later that I did this? So actually answer it. Which one is going to matter most later? And then the third one is, it's just, and then a blank. That's a big one for me with almost everything. It's just Instagram, or it's just an hour. If I plan to study for an hour, it's just an hour, and then I can go on Instagram. So fill in that blank, and usually it really changes it around. And when I'm trying to eat healthy, that's a big one too. This is like kind of getting off track, but it's very important. When I'm trying to eat healthy and I come downstairs or I'm out and it's like I walk by ice cream or something and it's like, I really want it. Usually instinctively we do the same thing. If we don't stop and think about it, we'll just do it and then we regret it later. If you stop and take that 1 second and you have a note card and you go through your 3 things, usually it works. But what I do is like, it's just ice cream. It's just pizza. And then it's like, what's going to matter most later,
That's a great use of language.
And another 3 words that I use all the time. I used it with a patient this morning. Does it fit? If I do this, does it fit with the goals I have?
Right.
Well, and
the goals I have to be healthy, the goals I have to be smart, the goals I have to keep my brain intact.
And I like them.
Does it fit?
You know what? It works the other way with motivation too. Nike said it best. Just do it. So if I'm playing, or if I'm at dance, or I'm in an audition, it's like, it's just an audition, or it's just like 5 minutes. And it's like my performance actually increases because like, just do it. What do you have to lose, right?
Well, and if we look at your ability to perform 2 years ago versus now, it's like,
and it's radical.
And
so
people actually
to
don't know
mindset.
that Chloe is the face for Unicorn Slime, and
you just had to do it.
Her
didn't you?
videos
You just
have
had
like
to.
26 million
Poopsie.
views. She's the ambassador of Poopsie.
It's way more than that now.
You're looking at the face.
It's fun. Well, you have been such a joy.
Thank you for having me.
Actually, for your
Yeah,
whole
it's
life, you've been a
wonderful.
joy. We're grateful that you helped with Change Your Brain, Change Your Grades. Coming up, you're going to meet our niece, Alize. She is awesome as well. If you want Change Your Brain, Change Your Grades signed by all 3 of us, go to brainwarriorswaypodcast.com. Leave us a comment, a question, a review, and in the subject line, put Change Your Brain, Change Your Grades raffle, and we'll enter you into a drawing. Take care.
If you're enjoying the Brain Warriors Way podcast, please don't forget to subscribe so you'll always know when there's a new episode. And while you're at it, feel free to give us a review or 5-star rating, as that helps others find the podcast.
If you're considering coming to Amen Clinics or trying some of the brain healthy supplements from BrainMD, you can use the code podcast10 to get a 10% discount on a full evaluation at amenclinics.com or a 10% discount on all supplements at brainmdhealth.com. For more information, give us a call at 855-978-1363.